Anger is not something that happens to you. It is something that happens within you. It is not an external force that others impose upon you. It is a choice, a reaction, an internal decision made in response to a stimulus. And yet most people go through life believing they have no control over it. They let circumstances, people, and events dictate their emotional state, completely unaware that they are handing over their power every time they allow something or someone to trigger them. Consider this. Two people can experience the exact same situation, yet react in entirely different ways. One person becomes enraged while the other remains calm. The difference is not in the external event. It is in the internal processing. The person who remains calm has trained their mind to act rather than react. They have learned that emotional control is not about suppressing feelings, but about understanding them and mastering the way they respond. They have developed an awareness of their own thoughts, emotions, and impulses, and through that awareness, they have gained control. But the vast majority of people never reach this level of awareness because they operate on autopilot. They have been conditioned since childhood to react instantly to whatever happens around them. Someone says something offensive, react. Someone criticizes you, defend yourself. Someone does something unfair, get angry. It is a cycle that has been reinforced so many times that it feels natural, even inevitable. But the truth is, it is not inevitable at all. It is simply a pattern. A deeply ingrained habit that can be broken once you recognize it. The first step to mastering your emotions and freeing yourself from the grip of anger is awareness. Most people don't even realize how often they allow their emotions to control them. They believe their reactions are automatic, that they are helpless against their own feelings. But the reality is, every emotional response is a choice, even if it feels unconscious. And that means you have the power to change it. Start paying attention to what triggers you. Observe yourself in the moments when you feel irritation bubbling up. What caused it? Was it a person's words, a situation that didn't go as expected, a memory from the past that resurfaced? When you begin to dissect your own emotions, you gain insight into what controls you. And once you understand what controls you, you can begin to take control back. Most people think anger is caused by external events, but that is a deception. Two people can be cut off in traffic. One rages, honking and cursing, while the other remains completely unfazed. Why? Because it's not the event that creates the anger. It's the interpretation of the event. One person sees it as a personal attack, an act of disrespect and injustice. The other sees it as a meaningless moment, something not even worth a second thought. And that difference in perception changes everything. The moment you realize that anger is not something others do to you, but something you create inside yourself, you begin to reclaim your power. You are no longer at the mercy of what others say or do. You become the master of your own emotions rather than a slave to them. But to reach this level of mastery, you must train your mind to pause before reacting. The pause is where your power lies. Most people react immediately to whatever happens around them. They get triggered, and before they even process what's happening, they lash out. But if you can train yourself to pause, to create a small space between the stimulus and the response, you gain control. In that pause, you get to decide, is this worth my energy? Do I want to let this affect me? Is this really a big deal, or is it just my mind blowing it out of proportion? And more often than not, when you take that moment to reflect, you realize that the thing that was about to upset you is not worth your time. It is a fleeting event, a meaningless moment that will pass just as quickly as it came, unless you hold on to it. And that is the real secret. Anger only lasts as long as you feed it. When you get angry, your mind starts replaying the event over and over again. You replay what was said, you analyze every detail, you create imaginary arguments in your head, and with every replay, you fuel the anger, keeping it alive long after the moment has passed. Alas, pre over life. But the moment you decide to let it go, to refuse to engage in that internal loop, you cut off its power. The anger dissolves because it has nothing left to sustain it. Some people will argue that anger is necessary, that is a natural response to injustice. And while it's true that anger can sometimes be a motivator, more often than not, it is a destructive force. It clouds judgment, weakens focus, and wastes energy that could be used for something far more productive. And in the vast majority of situations, anger accomplishes nothing. It does not change the past. It does not fix problems. It only poisons the mind of the person who holds onto it. True strength is not in the ability to overpower others with anger, but in the ability to remain unmoved in the face of negativity. When you reach a point where nothing can shake you, where no insult, no criticism, no external event has the power to disturb your peace, that is when you become truly free. But that freedom only comes when you take responsibility for your own emotions. When you stop blaming others for how you feel and start mastering your own mind. There is a simple truth that most people never realize. No one can make you angry without your permission. No one can disturb your peace unless you allow them to. It is always your choice. And once you become aware of that choice, everything changes. Most people spend their entire lives reacting to the world around them, never realizing that they are handing over their power every time they let external circumstances dictate how they feel. They wake up feeling good, but the moment someone criticizes them, they shrink. The moment they are ignored, they feel invisible. The moment they face rejection, they start doubting their worth. And without even realizing it, they allow other people to become the controllers of their emotions. As if their happiness, peace, and confidence are dependent on the approval of others. But here's the truth. The moment you stop looking for validation outside yourself is the moment you set yourself free. People who are easily angered or bothered often have one thing in common. They seek validation. They want to be accepted, liked, and respected, and when they don't receive that, they feel hurt. But why? Why should someone else's opinion have the power to make you feel small? Why should their approval be the measure of your worth? The answer is simple. It shouldn't. Yet so many people attach their self-worth to what others think, and that is the root of their suffering. If you rely on external validation, you will always be vulnerable because people are unpredictable. One day they praise you, the next they criticize you. One moment they are kind, the next they are indifferent. And if your emotions rise and fall based on their behavior, you are not in control of yourself. They are. The reality is people's opinions are based on their own perceptions, biases, and insecurities. Someone who belittles you is revealing more about themselves than they are about you. Their negativity is a reflection of them, not you. Yet most people internalize these words, replaying them over and over again as if they hold some deep truth. They allow themselves to be affected by the words of people who don't even truly know them. But think about it. Why would you let someone else's fleeting judgment determine how you feel about yourself? Their words have no power unless you give it to them. There is something incredibly liberating about no longer needing external validation. When you know who you are, when you trust yourself, when you recognize your own value, nothing anyone says or does can shake you. You are no longer reactive, no longer waiting for approval, no longer allowing others to control your emotions. Instead, you become grounded in an unshakable self-belief. You are no longer affected by criticism because you understand that your worth is not up for debate. You are no longer bothered by rejection because you recognize that it is not a reflection of you, but simply a mismatch of energy or values. You no longer get angry when someone disrespects you because you understand that their actions have nothing to do with you and everything to do with them. The problem is most people do not operate from a place of inner certainty. They are constantly looking outward for signs that they are good enough. They want people to like them. to admire them, to reassure them. And when they don't get that, they feel unsettled, insecure, and sometimes even angry. But true confidence, the kind that cannot be shaken, comes from within. It is not dependent on applause, recognition, or validation. It is something you build through self-awareness, self-respect, and self-mastery. Imagine walking into a room and not caring whether people like you or not. Imagine posting something online and not feeling anxious about the response. Imagine someone insulting you, and instead of getting angry, you just smile because you know their words mean nothing. That is power. That is freedom. And that is a level of self-mastery that allows you to remain calm and unbothered in any situation. The world is full of opinions. Everyone has something to say, but not everything they say is worth listening to. You must learn to filter out the noise. Not every comment deserves a response. Not every criticism requires an explanation. Some people will misunderstand you no matter what you do. Some people will dislike you for no reason at all. Some people will try to bring you down simply because they are unhappy with themselves. None of this has anything to do with you. The only thing that matters is how you see yourself. People who are truly confident do not need to prove themselves. They do not need to argue, to defend, to seek approval. They know who they are, and that knowing is enough. They do not waste their energy trying to change others' perceptions because they understand that people will think whatever they want to think, and that is none of their concern. If you want to free yourself from anger, from frustration, from emotional turmoil, you must learn to stop giving people power over you. Who you really are, you must learn to discover. XLL. Get out of your own head. Every time you react, every time you get defensive, every time you allow someone's words to dictate how you feel, you are handing them control. But the moment you decide that their words are irrelevant, that their opinions are meaningless, that their approval is unnecessary, you take that control back. It is not about arrogance. It is about self-respect. It is about recognizing that your value does not change based on how others perceive you. You do not become less worthy because someone disrespects you. You do not become less intelligent because someone doubts you. You do not become less attractive because someone doesn't see your beauty. You are who you are, and that is enough. But until you believe that, you will always be vulnerable to the opinions of others. Emotional mastery is not about suppressing your feelings, but about understanding them. Why do you feel triggered? Why does that person's opinion bother you? What are you afraid of? When you start asking these questions, you begin to uncover the hidden fears and insecurities that keep you attached to external validation. And once you expose them, you can begin to let them go. There will always be people who try to test you, who try to provoke you, who try to bring you down. But when you stop giving them power, when you stop reacting, they lose all control over you. Nothing is more powerful than a person who cannot be shaken. When you no longer need approval, when you no longer seek validation, when you no longer allow others to dictate how you feel, you become untouchable. Most people go through life completely unaware of how much control they actually have over their own emotions. They believe that anger, frustration, or sadness are natural reactions to the way people treat them, as if their emotions are at the mercy of the outside world. They say things like, "That person made me so angry," or "They ruined my day," as if someone else has the power to reach into their mind and dictate how they feel. But the truth is, no one has that power unless you give it to them. Every emotional reaction you have is a choice, whether you realize it or not. The problem is most people are so deeply conditioned to react impulsively that they don't even recognize this choice exists. They operate on autopilot, allowing their emotions to be triggered by external circumstances without ever questioning whether they actually have to feel that way. If you want to stop being controlled by other people's actions, you must develop the ability to observe your emotions without being consumed by them. The key is to pause before you react. Instead of instantly getting angry when someone insults you, take a moment to ask yourself, why does this bother me? Instead of immediately feeling hurt when someone ignores you, step back and think, does their opinion actually change anything about me? This small shift in perspective is incredibly powerful because it disrupts the automatic response that most people fall into. It allows you to step outside of your emotions and look at the situation objectively. And the moment you do this, you take back control. When you develop this level of awareness, you begin to realize that most of the things that upset you are actually illusions. They only have power because you allow them to. For example, if someone criticizes you, why does it hurt? It's not the words themselves that cause pain, it's the meaning you attach to them. If you believe their words are true, if you already have some insecurity that aligns with their criticism, then you will feel hurt. But if you are completely confident in yourself, if you know their words are baseless, then they have no effect on you. The same applies to every negative emotion. Anger, frustration, and disappointment all stem from the way you interpret situation, not from the situation itself. This is why two people can experience the same event but have completely different reactions, because their perception is different. The problem is most people never question their perceptions. They assume that their emotional reactions are justified simply because they feel them strongly. But feelings are not facts. Just because something makes you feel a certain way does not mean that the feeling is an accurate reflection of reality. When you recognize this, you begin to take back control of your emotions instead of being at their mercy. You start to see that just because someone tries to offend you doesn't mean you have to be offended. Just because someone tries to manipulate you doesn't mean you have to be manipulated. You always have a choice. And that choice is what separates people who are emotionally strong from those who are easily shaken. One of the most effective ways to master this skill is by practicing emotional detachment. This does not mean that you suppress your emotions or become numb to life. It means that you develop the ability to observe your emotions without immediately reacting to them. Imagine your emotions as clouds passing in the sky. Instead of getting caught up in them, you simply watch them come and go. You do not resist them, but you also do not cling to them. You allow them to pass naturally without identifying with them. This practice builds an incredible level of emotional resilience because it prevents you from being consumed by fleeting emotions. It allows you to respond to situations with clarity and wisdom instead of reacting impulsively out of habit. Many people resist this idea because they believe that strong emotions are a sign of strength. They think that getting angry shows that they are passionate, or that being deeply affected by others means that they care. But true strength is not about being ruled by your emotions. It is about mastering them. It is about knowing that you can get angry but choosing not to. It is about knowing that you could be hurt but deciding that it is not worth your energy. It is about recognizing that your peace of mind is too valuable to be disrupted by things that do not truly matter. This is not indifference, it is power. The world is full of situations that could trigger negative emotions, but when you develop emotional mastery, you no longer feel like a victim to them. You no longer feel like your happiness is dependent on other people's actions. You understand that their behavior has nothing to do with you and everything to do with them. And because of this, you are able to remain calm, unshaken, and in control, no matter what happens around you. Most people live their entire lives being pulled in every direction by their emotions. They wake up happy, but the moment something goes wrong, their entire mood shifts. They go through the day feeling like their emotions are being tossed around like a small boat in a storm. But imagine living a life where nothing outside of you has the power to dictate how you feel. Imagine being able to move through any situation with a sense of inner peace, no matter what happens. That is the power of emotional mastery. It does not mean that you never feel emotions. It means that you are no longer controlled by them. There's a famous quote that says, between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space lies our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. That space is the key to emotional mastery. It is the ability to pause before reacting, to choose how you respond instead of letting your emotions take over. The more you practice this, the more control you gain over yourself. You begin to realize that nothing and no one can make you feel anything unless you allow it. When you reach this level of self-control, you become unshakable. You no longer waste energy getting upset over small things. You no longer allow negative people to affect you. You move through life with a quiet confidence, knowing that no matter what happens, you are in control of yourself. And that is one of the most powerful skills a person can develop. Most people spend their entire lives reacting to the world around them, allowing external circumstances to dictate their emotions, their peace, and ultimately their sense of self-worth. They wake up feeling good, but the moment something doesn't go their way, someone cuts them off in traffic, a coworker speaks to them in a disrespectful tone, a friend doesn't respond to their message, they feel an immediate shift in their mood. They become irritated, frustrated, even angry. Why? Because they have unknowingly given away their power. They have allowed external forces to dictate their inner state, as if their happiness and peace of mind are fragile things that can be taken away at any moment. This is how most people live, completely at the mercy of situations, people, and circumstances that are outside of their control. But the truth is, nothing outside of you has the power to disturb your peace unless you allow it. When you live in a state of emotional dependence, you are constantly on edge, constantly reacting to everything and everyone. You become a puppet, with your emotions being pulled in every direction by the actions of others. If someone compliments you, you feel good. If someone criticizes you, you feel bad. If things go smoothly, you feel happy. If something unexpected happens, you feel upset. Your entire emotional state is dictated by forces outside of you, and this is the reason why so many people feel mentally and emotionally exhausted all the time. They are constantly giving their power away without even realizing it. They allow small inconveniences to ruin their entire day. They allow the words and actions of others to determine how they feel about themselves. They live in a state of reaction rather than a state of control. And the most dangerous part is, they don't even realize they're doing it. The key to breaking free from this emotional dependence is to develop a deep, unshakable sense of self. You must reach a point where your peace and happiness are no longer dependent on external circumstances. This means that no matter what happens around you, no matter how people behave, no matter what challenges arise, your inner state remains unchanged. This is not about suppressing emotions or pretending that you don't care. It's about cultivating a level of inner strength that makes you untouchable. It's about becoming so grounded in who you are that nothing outside of you has the power to disturb your peace. One of the most effective ways to develop this level of inner strength is by shifting your perspective on control. Most people try to control the external world. They want people to behave a certain way. They want circumstances to unfold according to their expectations. They want everything to be predictable and comfortable. But the truth is, you cannot control the outside world. You cannot control how people think, how they act, or what they say. You cannot control what challenges life throws your way. But what you can control, what you must control, is yourself. You can control how you respond. You can control how you interpret situations. You can control whether or not you allow something to steal your peace. The moment you stop trying to control the external world and start mastering your internal world, everything changes. When you truly internalize this, you stop wasting energy on things that do not serve you. You stop getting frustrated over things you cannot change. You stop feeling offended by the words and actions of others because you realize that their behavior is a reflection of them, not of you. You start to see things as they are rather than how your emotions want you to see them. And as a result, you become unshakable. You become a person who moves through life with calmness, confidence, and clarity, regardless of what happens around you. This level of emotional mastery does not happen overnight. It requires consistent practice. It requires awareness. It requires discipline. Every time you feel triggered by something, you must pause and ask yourself, am I reacting or am I choosing my response? Every time you feel tempted to let someone's behavior upset you, you must remind yourself, I am in control of my emotions, not them. Every time life throws an unexpected challenge your way, you must train yourself to shift your focus from what you cannot control to what you can control. The more you practice this, the more natural it becomes. And over time, you begin to realize that the things that used to upset you no longer have power over you. Most people live in a state of constant emotional turbulence because they have not yet taken ownership of their inner world. They believe that peace and happiness come from external conditions being just right. But true peace does not come from everything around you being perfect. It comes from mastering yourself so completely that external conditions no longer have the power to disturb you. It comes from reaching a point where you are no longer dependent on circumstances, people, or outcomes for your emotional stability. When you develop this level of inner mastery, you no longer feel the need to control the outside world. You no longer feel threatened by the actions or opinions of others. You no longer allow minor inconveniences to disrupt your state of mind. People often spend their entire lives chasing external things in an attempt to feel better: money, relationships, recognition, approval, thinking that once they have these things, they will finally feel at peace. But peace does not come from external validation. It does not come from getting everything you want. It comes from detaching your sense of self from anything outside of you. It comes from knowing that your worth, your happiness, and your peace are not determined by anything or anyone but you. Once you reach this level of self-mastery, you begin to notice something interesting. The things that used to upset you now seem insignificant. The people who used to get under your skin no longer affect you. The situations that once triggered an emotional reaction now barely register. This is because you have rewired your mind to operate from a place of control rather than reaction. You have trained yourself to prioritize your inner peace over temporary emotions. And as a result, you move through life with a level of confidence and clarity that most people never experience. Most people go through life reacting emotionally to the words and actions of others, allowing themselves to be easily provoked, offended, or disturbed. They take everything personally, as if the world is plotting against them, as if every action someone takes is a direct attack on them. They fail to realize that people do not act based on how they feel about you. They act based on what is going on within themselves. The way people treat you is not a reflection of your worth. It is a reflection of their own mindset, beliefs, and inner world. But because so many people are ruled by their emotions, they allow every little comment, every small gesture, and every external situation to dictate how they feel. They give away their peace because they have not yet learned how to separate themselves from the behavior of others. They fall into the trap of thinking, why did they say that to me? Why did they treat me this way? Why don't they respect me? These thoughts create unnecessary suffering, keeping them in a constant state of frustration and emotional turmoil. The moment you internalize the truth that people's actions have little to do with you and everything to do with them, you gain an incredible sense of freedom. You stop reacting to everything emotionally because you understand that people are simply projecting their own experiences, fears, insecurities, and beliefs onto the world. When someone insults you, it is not about you, it is about them. When someone treats you unfairly, it is a reflection of who they are, not a reflection of your value. When someone is rude or dismissive, they are operating from their own limited perspective, not from an accurate assessment of you as a person. But if you take it personally, if you allow their behavior to dictate your emotions, then you are voluntarily placing your peace in their hands. You are allowing yourself to be controlled by people who may not even be aware of their own actions. And the worst part is most people do this unconsciously without realizing that they are the ones choosing to be affected. Imagine someone walks into a room and starts yelling about how terrible the weather is, how unfair life is, how miserable they feel. Now, does their frustration have anything to do with you? No. But if you engage with their negativity, if you allow their energy to drag you down, then you have made their problem your own. This is exactly what happens when you take other people's words and actions personally. You allow their internal struggles to become your burden. You take on emotions that were never meant to be yours. You absorb negativity that was never directed at you in the first place. It was simply being projected outward because they did not know how to handle it themselves. The key to never being bothered by the behavior of others is to develop a deep understanding of human nature. People are not perfect. They are struggling with their own challenges, their own pain, their own fears. They are dealing with stress, insecurity, and frustration that you may know nothing about. And because most people lack self-awareness, they unconsciously project their emotions onto those around them. This is why someone might snap at you for no reason. This is why someone might ignore you when you expected kindness. This is why someone might spread negativity, gossip, or anger. It is not because they have something against you, but because they have unresolved emotions within themselves that they have not yet learned to manage. When you truly understand this, you stop expecting people to act a certain way. You stop feeling entitled to their respect, their kindness, or their validation. You stop reacting emotionally to their words and actions because you realize that their behavior is about them, not about you. When you operate from this mindset, nothing anyone says or does can affect your peace. You become untouchable because you are no longer seeking approval or validation from others. You are no longer attaching your self-worth to how people treat you. You are no longer reacting to their emotional outbursts, their negativity, or their opinions. Instead, you remain in control of yourself. You observe their behavior without internalizing it. You recognize that they are acting from their own perspective, shaped by their own experiences, and you refuse to let it dictate how you feel. This level of detachment is not about being cold or indifferent. It is about maintaining your inner balance regardless of what happens around you. It is about choosing your own emotional state rather than allowing others to dictate it for you. It is about understanding that the only person responsible for your happiness, your peace, and your sense of self-worth is you. When you embrace this mindset, you stop reacting emotionally to every little thing. You stop taking offense to things that have nothing to do with you. You stop wasting energy on people who are simply acting out their own unresolved emotions. Instead, you remain grounded. You remain calm. You remain unshaken by the ever-changing emotions of those around you. This shift in perspective is life-changing. When you stop taking things personally, you free yourself from a lifetime of unnecessary stress and emotional suffering. You begin to move through life with a sense of ease, no longer burdened by the opinions, moods, or negativity of others. You understand that you are in control of how you feel, and that no one has the power to take that away from you unless you give it to them. You develop a quiet confidence that allows you to navigate any situation with grace. You no longer feel the need to prove yourself, to argue, or to defend your worth, because you understand that other people's opinions are simply reflections of their own mindsets, not of your reality. This does not mean you never engage with others or that you ignore people completely. It simply means you choose how you respond. You choose whether or not you allow something to affect you. You choose to remain in control of your own emotions rather than allowing them to be dictated by external events. This is the foundation of true emotional freedom. When you understand that people are simply acting based on their own internal world, you stop feeling hurt by their words and actions. You stop internalizing their negativity. You stop reacting emotionally to things that have nothing to do with you. Instead, you rise above it all. You remain centered, calm, and unshaken no matter what happens around you. Most people go through life allowing external circumstances and other people's opinions to dictate how they feel. They react emotionally to every little thing, whether it's an insult, a rejection, or even just someone's disapproving look. They don't realize that by doing this, they are giving their power away. They are allowing something outside of themselves to control their inner world. And this is why they are always frustrated, always upset, always feeling like life is unfair. They have placed their emotions in the hands of people who don't even think about them as much as they assume. There is an undeniable truth that most people never fully grasp. Your emotions are your responsibility. Your reactions are your responsibility. No one has the power to make you feel anything unless you give them that power. But so many people live as if they are at the mercy of others. as if their peace and happiness depend on how others behave toward them. They believe that if someone is rude, they must get upset. If someone criticizes them, they must feel hurt. If someone ignores them, they must feel rejected. This kind of thinking keeps them trapped in an endless cycle of emotional ups and downs because they have never taken full control over their own mental state. The key to never getting angry or bothered by anyone is to understand that your inner world is something you must master. It is something you must protect. You cannot allow just anyone to walk into your mind and dictate how you feel. You must become the gatekeeper of your own emotions, deciding who and what gets to influence you. When you truly grasp this, you begin to take full ownership of your reactions. You stop allowing yourself to be triggered by every little thing. You stop seeing yourself as a victim of circumstance, and instead, you step into the role of someone who is in charge of their own life. The way to develop this kind of emotional resilience is through self-awareness. You must become aware of your own patterns, your own triggers, your own tendencies to react without thinking. You must observe yourself in the moments when you feel offended, upset, or irritated. What is happening inside your mind? What story are you telling yourself? Most people react emotionally without ever questioning their thoughts. They assume that their feelings are justified simply because they feel them. But emotions do not appear out of nowhere. They are created by the thoughts you choose to focus on. If you feel insulted, it is not because of what someone said, it is because of the meaning you assign to their words. If you feel disrespected, it is not because of what they did, it is because you took it personally. And if you take a step back and truly examine the situation, you will often find that your emotional reactions are based more on assumption than reality. This is why emotional mastery begins in the mind. If you can control the way you think, you can control the way you feel. And if you can control the way you feel, you become untouchable. No insult, no criticism, no rejection can shake you because you no longer react out of impulse. You respond with intention. You become an observer of your own mind, catching negative thoughts before they spiral out of control. You stop allowing temporary emotions to dictate your long-term well-being. You understand that emotions come and go, but your peace is something you can choose to protect at all costs. A powerful way to strengthen this mindset is to practice detachment. Detachment does not mean indifference. It means refusing to be ruled by external events. It means understanding that people's actions are a reflection of them, not you. It means recognizing that just because someone disrespects you does not mean you must feel disrespected. Just because someone tries to hurt you does not mean you must feel hurt. You always have a choice in how you respond. The problem is that most people don't realize they have this choice, so they react automatically, emotionally, and irrationally. But when you master detachment, you take back your power. You learn to see situations as they are without attaching unnecessary emotion to them. You stop expecting people to act a certain way. You stop seeking validation from others. You stop allowing outside influences to dictate your peace of mind. Another important factor in emotional mastery is self-discipline. Developing self-discipline over your emotions means training yourself to remain calm even when provoked. It means resisting the urge to react impulsively. It means pausing before responding, allowing yourself time to process the situation logically instead of emotionally. This is a skill that requires practice, but once developed, it will serve you for the rest of your life. You will no longer be controlled by temporary emotions. You will no longer fall into the trap of overreacting, regretting your words, or allowing negativity to consume you. Instead, you will operate from a place of composure, clarity, and strength. One of the most powerful ways to cultivate this kind of emotional strength is through daily mental conditioning. Just as the body must be trained through exercise, the mind must be trained through intentional thought. This means starting every day with the conscious decision to remain unshaken no matter what happens. It means practicing mindfulness, observing your thoughts without becoming attached to them. It means choosing to focus only on what serves you and letting go of everything that does not. Most people wake up and allow their minds to be flooded with worries, doubts, and external distractions. They check their phones, absorb negativity from the news, or immediately engage in stressful conversations. And then they wonder why they feel drained, irritated, or overwhelmed before the day has even begun. But those who take control of their minds set the tone for their day from the moment they wake up. They practice gratitude. They remind themselves that no one can take away their peace unless they allow it. They condition their minds to remain calm, regardless of circumstances. And because of this, they navigate life with an effortless sense of ease. Another essential practice is learning how to let things go. Holding on to resentment, anger, or bitterness only poisons your own mind. It does nothing to change the past, and it only robs you of your present peace. When you learn to let go, you free yourself from unnecessary suffering. You stop replaying old conversations, reliving past hurts, or holding grudges against people who have long since moved on. You realize that your peace is far more valuable than winning an argument, proving a point, or seeking revenge. You understand that forgiveness is not about excusing someone else's behavior. It is about liberating yourself from the burden of carrying negativity. The ultimate goal of emotional mastery is to reach a state where nothing external can shake you, where you no longer react to every little inconvenience, where you are no longer easily offended, where you operate from a place of inner strength rather than being controlled by the ever-changing moods and opinions of those around you. This is the level of self-mastery that very few people ever reach, not because they can't, but because they never make the decision to. They remain trapped in their old ways of thinking, believing that life is happening to them instead of realizing that they have the power to shape their own reality. But once you take full ownership of your emotions, your reactions, and your state of mind, you become unstoppable. You step into a level of power that is so rare, so unshakable, that nothing, no insult, no criticism, no rejection can touch you.